right, folks, we are back here on WLT's 1370M. If you like what you're hearing, or if you don't like what you're hearing, please give us a call, 219-885-1371. I am Scott Cannon. Over there is Reverend Delwyn Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And, I've been accused. There's been people who've accused me of being a secret right-winger before because I'm always critical of the Democratic Party and particularly the sort of mainstream corporate liberal wing of the Democratic Party. But I always say, look, I just have a specific worldview ideology. I'm a left-wing populist. I don't support imperialism. And so whenever anybody, even the president, comes out against imperialism, or at least on some level, and kind of pushes back against the imperialism that is pushed by our media and pushed by his fellow politicians, I'm always happy. So I was watching TV not too long ago, and I saw an interview with Joe Biden, and I'm like, oh, what has this guy got to say? Oh, I'm sure this guy's feeding us more BS. But I was watching an interview, and the topic of Afghanistan came up. Mm-hmm. And, we're leaving Afghanistan. He said September 11th. He's moved it up to August. Hopefully he will keep his word. Hopefully there won't be some sort of crazy, mysterious attack that happens and we can't leave. But the media, the interviewer actually tried to goad Joe Biden and sort of push him into sort of saying that he kind of was wrong about leaving Afghanistan. And this is what he had to say. And so I was happy about it.
The Washington Post quoted you this week in a story about Afghanistan, saying that back in 2010, you said to Richard Holbrooke, the then envoy, I'm not sending my boy back there to risk his life on behalf of women's rights. It just won't work. Not what we're there for. Is that how you remember it? Or
Yeah,
what did you mean?
What I meant was there's 1,000 places we could go to deal with injustice. I can think of 10 countries where women and or children and or people are being persecuted or being hurt. But the idea of us going to be able to use our armed forces to solve every single internal problem that exists throughout the world is not within our capacity. The question is America's vital self-interest at stake or the vital self-interest of one of our allies at stake? And the fact that they have a system in Afghanistan, as they do in parts of Pakistan, as they do in parts of other countries, that we're going to send troops because there is not a human rights are not being valued to the same degree that we are. That's a different story about sending combat troops. We should call it out. We should go to the United Nations. We should be saying this is what's happening. We should try to shame and get the world to put pressure on and economic pressure on people who engage, countries who engage in that, but not send troops. That's what I meant. It is not sufficient. That was my point. And the idea was, and I think Richard had said something like, well, women are being abused there. I said, they're being abused a lot of places around the world. Are we going to send our American forces all over the world and make sure that stops?
But then don't you bear some responsibility for the outcome if the Taliban ends up
I love how she tried to push him on
end
it.
up losing the
No, I
rights?
don't. Look, are you telling me that we should go into China go to war with China because what they're doing to the Uyghurs, 1 million Uyghurs out in the West in concentration camps? Is that what you're saying to me?
It was your quote, sir. I was asking you.
No,
what
I
you meant.
know. I gave the answer. You said, do I bear responsibility? Zero responsibility. The responsibility I have is to protect America's national self-interest and not put our women and men in harm's way to try to solve every single problem in the world by use of force. That's my responsibility as president. And that's what I'll do as president.
Wow.
Yes!
Yes!
Yes! Yes! Yes! Yes!
I gotta give it to him.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
You don't know how long I've waited.
Got to give it to him.
You don't know how long I've waited to hear an American president say that. Now, if it had been Obama, he'd be like, well, we have to think about this very much. We have to think about this rationally and logically and try to take some troops out. Now, Trump said basically the same thing early in his presidency, but then the generals got to him and the Republicans, his own party, got to him and he backed off of it. He kept saying, why are we in Afghanistan? We got to get out of Afghanistan. And I was saying, yes, then. on the air, and people were mad at me for saying that because you can't agree that Donald Trump was right about anything. But the difference is Joe Biden actually seems like, again, we've got to August. He said August 31st is when they're actually supposed to leave. But finally, an American president said, look, that's their problem. We have our own problems. They got to, there's plenty of countries, including Saudi Arabia, who the American government has no problem doing business with, even after they chopped up Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, at the behest of the Saudi royal prince, or crown prince, or whatever he is. Look, there's lots of countries with problems, including our own. We talk about extrajudicial killings and mass incarceration on this show constantly happening right here in the United States, especially the African Americans. Joe Biden finally had the guts to at least say to one of these warmongers in the media, that's Margaret Brennan, who is a complete clown, a liberal clown, mainstream corporate warmongering Democrat, trying to force Joe Biden to say, oh no, we have to be there forever. No, thank you. Thank God Joe Biden stood up to her. I will give him his props when he does that. As long as he keeps doing that, I will give him his props. You got anything to say, Ray?
Nope. When he said that was an American president addressing his constitutional role as the chief executive of the United States government.
Right.
He's not the Secretary General of the UN.
Nope.
He's not the Pope the senior prelate of Eastern Orthodoxy. He's not the head imam of Islam.
He is not.
He got elected to do one thing, to supervise the U.S. government's activities with regard to the U.S. government's interest in protecting the interests of Americans.
Yep. And that's not all. This week, Joe Biden definitely, I guess he pulled, so he was in his bag this week. And he did something else that I agree with to react to that caller we had a few weeks. Has he ever done anything you agree with at all? Remember that guy?
Yep.
Well, there he is.
There it is, sir.
He did that, and he did something with an executive order that I really agreed with, and the media really didn't even make a big deal out of it because the media is owned by major corporations and conglomerates, and their corporate masters probably would not allow them to say anything or at least celebrate too hard because they might not have a job next week. But he made good on a campaign promise to curtail non-compete agreements. As a part of an executive order, he asked the FTC to ban or limit such agreements which can restrict where you can work after leaving a job. The move is a part of a larger push from the administration to promote competition and remove barriers that stymie economic growth. They argued that non-competes drive down wages, making it harder for workers to switch to better paying jobs. Meanwhile, businesses who support the non-compete agreement say that they are vital for protecting trade secrets and investments. And I've had an issue with this for a long time. A lot of people don't know about this, but in certain industries, even ones that you wouldn't think, like construction, they will make you sign a compete clause, a non-compete clause, if you want to work there. So they essentially get to have your labor there and then control where you can work for a specific amount of time after you leave the job, or if they fire you or whatever.
Right.
And this is something that for many years I've gone, how is this legal? How is this legal?
Well, actually, I mean, it would be legal. Well, you're okay. You've played Monopoly before, haven't you?
I have definitely played Monopoly.
Okay.
I have the scars to prove it.
Okay. Did you know that, and this is true, when it comes to Monopoly, anything that the rules do not say you cannot do, you can do.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in the realm of business in a country that's governed by law. Now, it's different from a country that's governed by personal whim, like a monarchy or a dictatorship or something. If the head in power decides something is wrong, then it's wrong till he changes his mind. But if we're governed by laws and by constitutions, if there's no law against it, it's not illegal.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's good, or even that it's just. It only means it's not legal. And no compete clauses at this point, except in states where they did actually make it illegal. If you're not in one of those states, then yeah, it's legal. Now, is it bad? Yes. Would I want to work at a place that has that? No. Would I try to find another employer who would take my skills and respect my skills enough and respect me as an adult enough to say, you know what, I'm going to earn your loyalty, not impose your loyalty?
Right.
I sure would. And that other guy with his non-compete clauses will be scraping the bottom of the barrel for staff.
Right. Absolutely agree. And here's the crazy thing, the thing that's so pernicious, why the White House had to step in. Even in states like California, North Dakota, and Oklahoma, which already banned non-compete agreements, they still kept doing them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They still found that in states that had banned them, that a lot of companies were still saying, hey, you can't work here unless you for a certain amount of time. Now, these non-compete clauses they say that well-paid, highly educated workers are more likely to use non-competes. The agreements themselves are not that uncommon in sectors dominated by low-wage workers.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 30% of establishments offering an hourly wage below $13 an hour require non-competes. I had no idea about this.
Yeah, I've never worked at a job that had one, even when I worked in the radio business. In fact, I can remember working at 3 radio stations in the same market.
Mm-hmm.
And at 2 of them, I actually was an on-air talent.
Right.
Working at both stations, but they essentially had different demographics.
Right.
And they didn't mind. And the general managers at both stations knew that I was working at the others,
Right.
They
they should have locked it down. if you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it. That's what Beyonce said.
Yeah.
Yes. The non-competes are still fairly common in construction. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah, that seems odd to me because I'm like,
manufacturing and retail.
What would I have as a construction worker that's so important,
right,
that you gotta lock me down that way to prevent me going to work for somebody else as a construction worker?
In manufacturing and retail as well. So like Walmart or something.
Yeah. What do I possibly know as a Walmart worker that if I went to work for Target would damage your market share, Walmart family?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, like exactly where that would happen. And so yes. Let me go back to my man Daniel Bryan.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Yeah, so exactly, it is possible Joe Biden can do multiple things in a week that I will definitely stand for. But before we get into in this hour, we definitely have to get into why we should hold on to your houses, everybody. I'm not a homeowner, and the way it's looking, I probably never will be with the way prices are going here. It's at least not in Northwest Indiana. The way things are looking now. But so hold on for that. We're definitely going to get into real estate across the country and here in this region, and who's buying all the houses here in this region.